Man, I can honestly say, man, happy 4th of July, man. We're back with another episode of the Undisputed Goat podcast. We are awaiting the long and waited arrival of Flash, but until right now, we got the big two on stage. What's going on with you, Frank, man? How you week been, man?
Week has been pretty good. Work ain't necessarily been too busy. We getting the house clean, ready for the fourth. Think we're going to family coming to the house tomorrow, so definitely expecting a good turnout. Think they're already starting the process of doing the food now. My mom and my dad is so. But I got to work tomorrow. That's the only thing. But still, I'm coming home. I'm snagging some food, so it don't even matter either way.
Hey, man. Hey, I must say, man, happy 4th of July to everyone, man. America's birthday, man, regardless. Hey, man, look, love living here. Every place got its problems, but guess what, man? I wouldn't trade it for the world. Happy birthday, America. And hey, man, look, man, what's your favorite thing outside? I mean, everybody loves the food on the 4th of July. And there we go right here. Flash.
What's up,
The
guys?
greatest of the universe.
Sorry. Sorry, I literally grabbed my daughter and then we sat down at Qdoba. I'm like, come on, like, yeah, hurry up. I don't want to sit here for an hour and watch you eat like 3 bites a second or 3 bites an hour. And all of a sudden I saw your message. I was like, and I'm like, we gotta go now. Like now, get in the car. Now. So sorry.
No, it's all good, man. Look, hey, family come first, man. And hey, like we was saying before, man, happy 4th of July. Hey, man, look, I got to ask y'all this, man. Now, for me, it has to be the food. Because if you really ask me, I mean, and it don't necessarily have to be barbecue. Because I remember one year, me and some family members of mine, we did a seafood boil. We had lobster and everything. Ooh. Yeah, I mean, that was pretty good, man. Not only that, man, one of my favorite movies of all time is The Patriot, man. So, watching The Patriot on 4th of July is something that always was a tradition of mine. And, there was Mel Gibson got one of the slickest lines in that movie when he get into the colonel's face. He's like, before this war's over, I'm going to get you. So, that was one of the slickest lines.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So, hey, Bill. So, Frank, man, what you like about the 4th of July, man?
Well, I mean, the food is definitely that's the obvious. But honestly, though, man, like we're having our get together at our house tomorrow. So honestly, getting together with the family, kind of appreciating the times, and then shoot. And honestly, I've always been like the fireworks, always shooting the fireworks because being in Georgia for the longest time, for the longest time you couldn't get them here, and it recently got to where what I'm saying. It's recently gotten back to where we can buy fireworks, in the state of Georgia. See, for the longest time, it would just be you go to the South Carolina border, you snag them up, you bring them back. So I mean, I'm for real, like we would like you shoot, you hit up that Augusta, like you go through Augusta, you hit up that border, snag them, bring them back, shoot them on 4th of July. So, like I know we went to get my daughter. We met her mom in Charlotte, to bring her back here. Like before we came back, while we were up in North Carolina, we just went on to snag the fireworks there, brought them on back to the house. So we spent a lot of money on fireworks too, boy. I'm telling you, boy, we shooting off a lot of money tomorrow. That's all I'm about to say. So. But yeah, honestly though, man, it's the fireworks and like the fireworks displays. Because I was living in Statesboro, there was like this 4th of July, this fireworks show they used to do every year and be like one of the prettiest things you'd ever see. So I do like seeing the different fireworks displays and the different fireworks shows. For me, outside of the food, it's probably the fireworks and just kind of seeing, that entertaining factor of the 4th of July. So I'll say for me, it's probably the fireworks.
Hey. Gotta love the fireworks. Because it was one time where it was illegal in the state of Georgia to have. So just like you used to go to all our Columbus people who watching right about now, y'all can relate to this. I remember there was a time just like y'all used to go to Augusta, we used to go to 50 City in order to get them. So Phoenix City right across the river, if you know what Columbus is. So, we're going to tag over there, come on back. So, hey, man, I got to say that is special. Flash, man, what's your favorite thing about the 4th of July, man?
Food. I mean, it's always usually on the grill. So, like anything on the grill is good. And as I've gotten older and being a dad now, it's fun to watch the kids like get together. It's fun just to watch them, run all the sparklers and shoot off fireworks and stuff like that. And considering that my daughter's pretty young still, like just to see her enjoy that during the fireworks, she still has. It's kind of a cool thing. Like you get older, and you don't get jaded. You just get older. So fireworks aren't what they were when you were a kid. But it's cool when you're a parent, like you get to kind of like when you see the innocent, like when they're like into something as simple as fireworks are to us, you get to kind of enjoy that again a little bit just from a different angle. So that's the part that I like.
Yeah. Hey, it's kind of a fireworks be, I don't know if it's just me or not, but fireworks when you get older, kind of like Christmas lights when you get older. You know what I'm saying? When you was a kid, whoa, wow. Then you just like you pass by a set of Christmas lights now, like, oh, okay. But,
yeah.
It's like they're cute. Okay.
Cute. Let me keep on driving.
Exactly.
Hey. But hey man, I gotta say this, man. But while we on the subject of holidays, though, man, there is something else that's coming up within the next few weeks, as a matter of fact. That just goes to show you how time flies. And that is, it's the last month before football season begins. The Hall of Fame game is on August the 1st, on a Thursday. We got about 4 Thursdays from today, man. So, I mean, hey, man, look, I can honestly say, man, the great thing about football season is it's the most exciting time of the year. I mean, football season, it's like everybody's you could smell it as it's coming. Everybody's kind of getting geared up. Everybody's getting their t-shirts. Everybody's getting ready for opening day. Even the little leaguers, they're out there trying to doing their thing over the summer. And it's just like, it's a very, very exciting time, man. I know for football season, every time I think about football season, I always think about August, September. And it's just like, the great thing about football is something to look forward to. The bad thing about football is this. Hey, when football season is coming, if you ain't been doing what you're supposed to all year, kind of time to knuckle down because you only got like 4 more months left. So that's the main thing about it. So, hey, if you've been slipping all year, football season get ready to come. You only got like 4 more months to get your shit together. Otherwise, you messed up. So, hey,
I'm telling you.
So let's go to the chat real quick before I let you go, BRL. Like and subscribe. PSP. Shout out to PSP, by the way. Champ stop advocating for Atlanta to get a receiver to come to Magic City. Hey, man, I'm going to keep beating the drum for Brandon Ayuk. We want to take that Lombardi trophy to Magic City. So
give me Brandon Ayuk or T. Higgins, and I am a happy individual.
Because we're going to go to Magic City at the end of the year, man. So, yeah. So, hey, BRF, man, what you like most about football season, man?
I don't know. It's just something about the energy when football season is about to start back up. It's like, but like with the fans, it's like there's a little more oomph, there's a little more pep in the step. It's like us being content creators. It's like the year is usually pretty ebb and flow, pretty even. But you notice when football season come around, it's like everybody kind of step their game up, and it's like everybody's just talking their stuff, whether it's trash, it's like supporting their team, trash talking rivals and all type of stuff. It's like the intensity level picks up, and you feel it. And me being me being the kind of fan that I am, I always love to debunk delusional Dallas Cowboys fans' dreams of winning another Super Bowl. Just letting them know, like, hey, stop talking. I mean, I know you wishing, you hoping, but yeah, I believe it when I see it. So definitely, it's between them and then Champ. Us being Falcons fans, Saints fans get to coming out the woodwork, talking about, oh, we finna run y'all this year, and I'm like, okay, we'll see. So it's just, for me, it's the intensity and the trash talk between rivals that really kind of gets to amp up when football season starts, because you only getting 16, 17, 18 weeks of this. So it's like you kind of got to get on a good start early. Otherwise, you might miss your shot to do something. So it's definitely a higher intensity level, but it brings the fun out. And I think that's what makes football season great, is just being able to support our teams and going back and forth with fans of rivals and stuff like that. So for me, it's just it's the anticipation and the intensity level for me that goes up when football season's coming. That's what makes it so exciting for me.
Feel you on that. Flash, what's your favorite thing about football season, man?
To kind of go off of what BRF said, it's a different atmosphere. It's a different energy. This is why I'm so against and a little old school when it comes to football. It's one of our last few gladiator sports. And that energy is there, and I like that energy, that hard hitting energy. It was funny. I was watching a clip earlier from A League of Their Own, which is one of my favorite movies. I love that movie. It's one of the best
movie.
It's just a phenomenal movie. And it's the scene towards the end of the movie when Jimmy Dugan is talking to Dottie and basically calling her, basically saying that if she doesn't come back and play the rest of the series, she's going to regret it. And she goes, "It's too hard," or "It got too hard." And he goes, the line is basically the hard is what makes it great. And I love that line. It's one of the greatest lines in a sports movie ever. But I think why football is so good and what makes it so special is it is hard, and it not only tests you mentally, but physically and emotionally. And I want to keep that energy, and I don't want to take away from that, because that's why football is my favorite. Like, besides my daughter, like, my favorite thing on earth is football. I love football. I've loved it since I was a little kid. And I want that energy, that gladiator, that pure. It's war. It's literally war. If you can literally equate it to war, the way the terminology is, the way that it's a chess match back and forth between the offense and the defense. And I love that energy. I mean, you're not supposed to be like this anymore nowadays. It's a man's energy. It's an old school man's energy, and I like that.
Hey, man, couldn't agree with you more, man. And look, real quick, man, PSP always, aside from me, PSP got to throw us a curveball. So real quick, speaking of football season, who was your too early Heisman favorite? His is Dylan Gabriel from Oregon. And I think that's a hell of a pick, to be honest with you, because Dylan Gabriel did a hell of a job out there in Oklahoma before they lost late in the season. So I think that's a hell of an assessment. Me personally, I'm gonna be the hometown guy and say Carson Beck. I think he has a great shot of winning the Heisman. And I know he just got in trouble, but I don't know how long. I don't think the punishment is going to be that long. But I really think Ollie Gordon is going to be a Heisman hopeful this year, even though he just got in trouble. But BRF, what says you, man?
Are we talking about Are we talking about PSV's question?
Yeah, too early.
Okay, too early Heisman. Yeah, I definitely think if I had to go favorite right now, mine is probably Carson Beck. I do like Dylan Gabriel, particularly with how Oregon plays offense. he's going to have a great opportunity to win the Heisman Trophy because they're going to sling the ball around up there in Oregon. So he's definitely going to have a shot. Depending on what, I don't know, man. The dark horse for me, I know a lot of people, Colorado and all this other stuff, they're not on that. Shedeur Sanders has to be a dark horse depending on what they do up there in Colorado. He's got to be a dark horse because if they're a better squad and if he could put up numbers, they're going to have the spotlight on him. I think my main thing with them is, are they going to improve as a team? If they're winning games and he's putting up numbers, I definitely see him as a dark horse. But I think if I had to just focus on the early favorite right now for me is probably Carson Beck because Georgia's going to be contending for a national championship. They're going to win games. And the way he was picking up that offense like late in the season last year and carrying it over to this year with the weapons that they still have on that offense, Carson Beck might be getting ready to make a bunch of money this year.
Flash.
So I don't think Shedeur Sanders is the Colorado one that we should be looking for. I know who you're about to say, and I'm 100% on this.
It's
Travis Hunter. In my opinion, he's probably top 3 overall football player in the country. And what Travis Hunter can do, because I right now I don't trust Deion and that coaching staff. I'll just be honest. I don't trust them yet. I think they've had a lot of drama around that team. And I need that coaching staff to show me that they can have things under control and improve. Because Shedeur Sanders was running for his life last year. And they can't, there's no way that if they haven't improved that at all, then he won't even sniff the Heisman. But Travis Hunter, though, let's just say they improved to like 500. Travis Hunter, he's the two-way player. And we haven't seen something like that since what? Charles Woodson?
Yeah.
So, depending on what he does on offense and defense, and if he stays healthy, to me, he's my Colorado guy. Obviously, Carson Beck is the obvious pick. It's Georgia, and it's, they're going to be one of the better teams. They're going to be a top 3 team in the country. But my other guy is Jackson Dart. With Lane Kiffin putting together a really great class. He had a really awesome year last year. So if he just takes that next step, I think he's another candidate. But I would say my 2 again. I'd actually I think the 3. I think it's Dart, Beck, and I think Hunter. Those are those are my 3.
All right. Shout out to Kieran. What's going on, man? Shout out to Trey. Deion got rid of all the weak links. That remains to be seen. But
I'm telling you,
I will say this. Another dark horse I will say is ATN from Georgia. I think he's going to do a hell of a job out there doing him transform from the Florida Gators over to us, especially depending on if they use him properly. So I think he can definitely be a Heisman candidate as well. But we're going to move out of one gladiator sport and move into another one. As y'all know already, boxing is one of my favorite sports, man. I watch it. I was an amateur at one point. And I have to say, man, people always say that pound for pound, Floyd is one of the greatest of all time. But I always had disputes about it, which I want to talk about you guys. I personally don't think that Floyd could have survived the onslaught of certain eras. I think that he was great for this era, but unfortunately for Floyd, I think that, he got in the right era. I don't think he could have survived a certain era. So my question to both of you, and we'll start with you, Flash. Could Floyd Mayweather Jr., who is undefeated, he's beaten 27 world champions, he's 50-0, could he have survived the onslaught of the golden age of boxing in the 70s and early 80s? Now, before I let you go, I want to let the audience know who that consisted of. What's up, OG? How you doing? Y'all make sure before y'all go follow Sports for You podcast with Mr. Watson. Y'all make sure y'all go follow whoever's watching. Now, before I let you answer that question, we got to remember who was in the golden age of boxing. Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, Manos de Piedra, a.k.a. Roberto Duran, Marvin Hagler. Those are just the guys at the top end. Those are just the guys at the top end. Those are the big four. Let's not forget about John the Beast Mugabe, who had a knockdown drag-out match with Marvin Hagler right before he faced Sugar Ray Leonard, who was 29-0 and all of his fights consisted of knockouts. He was 29-0 and all of them was by knockout. Then you had Alexis Arguello. Then you had my distant cousin, Aaron Pryor. Those are like arguably the top boxers in the world during their peak. So those, like I said, Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, Marvin Hagler, Roberto Duran. That's just at the top end. Then you had Mugabe, Aaron Pryor, Alexis Arguello. So those are the guys. And let's not forget early 80s Hector Camacho was part of that deal as well. So my question to you, Flash, do you think that Floyd Mayweather could have survived that onslaught during the 80s? Do you think he would have gone undefeated during that time and beaten all those guys?
Yeah, I want to preface what I'm about to say with I am not a Mayweather fan. I'm not like I'm not a hater either, but I'm not a fan. So, but yes, I do. If you go back and watch a lot of his fights, he had a very underrated chin. There were times that Floyd got rocked in fights and he took it and he was able to keep going in fights. And if you go back and watch that it's funny that this is a topic because I actually just watched a little bit of the De La Hoya Floyd fight, and De La Hoya is just going to town on him, but he's not landing a lot, and that's what Floyd could do. So when he would go against guys like Hearns and everybody else, Floyd's defense is almost second to none. The way it even when guys got really good shots on him, that was a rare thing. Just go back and watch that De La Hoya fight and the way that he covers his jaw and he makes himself even smaller. So he makes himself a smaller target, and just the way that he's able to counterpunch. I don't know if he would have gone undefeated, but I don't think he loses a lot of fights. And the reason why is because I think he wins on points. I think he would have gone in there and all the haymaking throwers of the 70s, and all the knockdown drag out fights, I think would have fed right into his game, because he would have sat back and played his even pick guys apart. And that's what he does. And it annoys everybody because everybody wants, when they go into a boxing match, when everybody tunes in, part of the reason why everybody bought a Floyd fight was to see him get knocked out. And we never saw that. And it's just the way he's able to counterpunch. I think the guys in the 70s would have played right into his hand. So yeah, I think he would have survived, and I think he would have still gone down as one of the best pound for pound fighters of all time. Do I think he's the greatest of all time? No, but you can't deny the record. The one thing that I'm always bothered by is he ducked Manny for years until Manny got older, which I didn't like. That's the one big red flag to me, because I think prime Manny would have had a better chance. But that's, I think he would have been fine. And I think he would have adapted to the era. So
I'm not going to lie. I think he would have beaten Roberto Duran, because Roberto Duran was just ferocious at times. And sometimes, he was a smart fighter, but his ferociousness kind of took over the fight, as we saw with No Mas. When he was allowed to go in just with guns a-blazing and knives out, Roberto Duran was at his most dangerous. But when you put him in a situation like in the No Moss fight with him and Ray Leonard, I think he beats. I think Mayweather beats Manos de Piedra. The only two people. The problem is I don't see him. I can see him beating Aaron Pryor and Alexis Arguello. The three people who I think would give him the most problems would be number one, Marvin Hagler.
Yeah.
Number one, Marvin Hagler. Because I mean, not only was he a ferocious fighter, his defense and his power and his technique was like second to none during that time. So I would have the guy who I don't think that Floyd could have beaten in his peak is Marvin Hagler. I think he could have beaten all the rest of them, excluding Ray Leonard and Hagler. I think he could have beaten Tommy Hearns and the rest of the guys. I do not think he could have beaten Hagler and Ray Leonard. Those are the two guys who I think would have gave Floyd the most problems in their heyday during that time. Because at their peak, there was nobody matching those two. When you think about bless you.
Sorry.
When you think about boxing during that time, and you think about one of the best middleweights and welterweights of all time, you think about Ray Leonard and you think about Hagler. I don't think he could have beaten Hagler or Ray Leonard. I think he would have had a good chance against Hearns and Manos de Piedra and Aaron Pryor and Arguello. But those two, I believe, would have given him the most trouble. But BRF, what says you?
Yeah, like I told you, this was my favorite question. While I do think Floyd Mayweather would still have success, because I feel like when you have sports, you have your generational talents that translate to any era, regardless. I think Floyd Mayweather fits that for boxing. He's generational. It doesn't matter what era you drop him in. I think he could always succeed, particularly because of his defense, his hand speed. He never had the most power. He never had like the knockout power, but he could get one when he needed to, and his hand speed would just allow him to just point you to death. He would point you to death because he would hit the necessary shots he needed to hit in order to win fights, 12-round decisions. I mean, that's what he did. Mm-hmm. Do I think he could? I call them the murderer's row. Hagler, Hearns, Leonard, and Duran. I call them the murderer's row of the 70s and 80s for a reason, because I feel like in terms of just sheer top heavy depth, few eras in boxing compete with Hagler, Hearns, Leonard, and Duran in terms of just sheer top heavy depth. Duran is the best matchup for Floyd. I'll say, yeah, Duran is probably the best matchup for Floyd from the standpoint of Floyd Mayweather is going to counterpunch him to death. He's going to counterpunch him. Roberto Duran, as strong as he was in his hands, I think he has arguably the strongest hands in the history of the sport. Mm-hmm. But he never really fought the smart fights. I mean, he was a brawler. He was a street fighter. He never really fought the smart fights. Floyd's going to dictate the pace for him and make him fight his fight. And I think Floyd's going to beat Duran more often than not. I don't know if Duran, if you're looking at contrasting styles, I don't think the way for Duran to beat him is to knock him out. But the problem is Floyd's too quick. So that's my main thing with that. Leonard is probably the closest to Floyd's equal in terms of just sheer skill set, which is why I think Sugar Ray Leonard could get him. Sugar Ray Leonard has stronger hands than Floyd Mayweather too, so that definitely I think gives him an edge in that, which is where I think Sugar Ray could get him. He matches him, he's skilled. He can match him. Like I say, he's the closest in skill set as far as like being able to match his defense, match his hand speed, and I think Sugar Ray Leonard has stronger hands. So I think that's where Sugar Ray Leonard could get him. I think, but I agree between him and I think Hagler would give him hella fits too, because Hagler is Hagler was a very smart fighter. He had hands, he could knock you out, but he didn't always allow fight. you couldn't dictate the pace with Marvelous Marvin Hagler. You couldn't dictate the pace with him because he was really great at adapting to what you would try to do to him. You couldn't really dictate because if he's going along in the fight and he started to figure out what he could do, he can adapt and then he kind of play into that and he could kind of will himself back into a fight and ultimately beat you, either go decision or knock you out. So Hagler could get him would definitely give him a lot of fits too. Hearns, definitely one of the more underrated fighters in any era. Tommy Hitman Hearns, definitely one of the more underrated fighters of any era. I think Floyd's counterpunching could come into play with Tommy Hearns too. Even though I do feel watching a lot of Tommy Hearns fights, he loved the body. He loved body shots. He could attack the body with the best of them. And I think that's where he could ultimately kind of like get Floyd, because the way to beat Floyd is to try to take stamina from him, which means go to the body. And Tommy Hearns could do that with the best of them. But I think ultimately it's the skill set for Floyd. I think he could be one of the greats, but I wouldn't think he could run through that murderer's row. I think Hagler get him. I think Sugar Ray Leonard would get him. I don't think the other two would get him, but I think Tommy Hearns would give him a better fight than Roberto Duran would give him. Mm-hmm. I didn't really watch too much. I haven't really seen too much of the other fighters you listed. Mm-hmm. So I'd have to go back and kind of watch clips on them. But as far as like the big four for me for that era, Hagler, I'm with you. Hagler, Leonard would give him the most problems. Hearns would give him a better fight than Duran, and Duran is like the perfect matchup for a Floyd Mayweather style fighter. He might not knock Roberto Duran out, but he's gonna counterpunch him, and he's always gonna win on points. So that's how I feel about that.
I agree with the Leonard thing. I think Leonard is his closest. In fact, if you go watch the Hagler Leonard fight, and I think that would be similar to you, Champ, saying that Hagler would give him fits. I think that's kind of how that fight would turn out. Go watch that fight, and I think like if you just put Floyd in there instead of Leonard, I think that's how the Hagler Mayweather fight goes. Duran, part of me wants to say he'd give him like a lot of problems. But I'm kind of with BRF. I think Leonard's the one that gives him the most problems.
Yeah.
Leonard's his equal when it comes to skill. So that's I think Hagler. Yeah. I'm with BRF on that. I think Leonard's the big. I don't think he can go through all of them and win every match, like every fight. You're going to have multiple fights between whoever. So do I think he would have won every fight? No, but like I think Leonard gets him once. Hagler may get him, depending on again, if you can just hit. Again, Floyd's got a really great chin, or did have a really great chin, so you really have to knock him on his butt. So overall, I think he survives. I think he's just as great as he was in last year.
Yeah. Hey, man. Like, I love these debates, man. The past versus the present is always a good thing. Like I said, Floyd is one of the greatest of all time, but as far as during that era, I agree with y'all. And I think the board is unanimous at this point. Hagler and Ray Leonard would give him fits. I think he could beat Hearns and Roberto Duran, because if you really look at Marcos Maidana, he's similar to the Roberto Duran, and he beat him twice. So, and if you really look at Juan Manuel Marquez, he's also a ferocious fighter like a Roberto Duran, and he's beat Marquez quite a few times. So I think, but as far as murderer's role, the way that BRF put it, Hagler, Hagler and Ray Leonard, they give him fits. He'll beat Hearns and Durant. But let's go from one gladiator sport to another, because we've seen a lot of champions over the course of the years. We've seen Floyd Mayweather, we've seen Muhammad Ali, we've seen a lot of other champions. But when it comes to another sport, we've seen a lot of all-time greats that didn't necessarily become champions. So my next question to y'all: who is a top wrestler that never became world champion? And you could pick any promotion that you would like to, man. It is not limited to the WWE.
I do have a question, though. What heavyweight titles are we counting?
I mean,
like you look at somebody like Mr. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. He never held the WCW heavyweight title. He never won the WWF heavyweight, at the time, the WWF heavyweight title. But he did hold the AWA heavyweight title. Does that count?
We're talking about the top two.
So WCW and WWF.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And in fairness to Mr. Perfect, they didn't give him that title until the AWA was literally on his last leg.
As the last legs, yeah. I just want to see how wide of the gap or narrow are we making it. So I was just curious.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, they didn't give him that title until he was on his last leg. And that was just a disservice to him. And that's why he ended up going to WWE and doing what he did. But you set the tone on that one. I think he was one of the all-time greats that never held a world title, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't understand to this day. I don't know whether it was politics or what have you that caused him not to win. But if you really look at mic skills, ring skills, entertainment skills, charisma, he had every single. There's a lot of guys.
Yep. Champ, he froze.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he froze.
Skills aren't that very good, but his ring skills. All cylinders. He was hitting on all cylinders. Mr. Perfect was hitting on all cylinders. So I don't know why they didn't drop the title, get someone to drop the title to him at a certain point.
Because he's not that wasn't Vince's idea of a heavyweight champion. Vince's idea for years was the Hogan, John Cena, style guy, like the really big guy that had more charisma than in-ring skills. That's why the Intercontinental title back then was known as the workers' title. It wasn't really politics. It was just Vince's vision at the time. You go back and watch Perfect, like Prime Mr. Perfect. Prime Mr. Perfect is Shawn Michaels before Shawn Michaels. The way he was able to sell and everything, like the way he was able to sell and his mic skills and everything else. He could pull off being a babyface and a heel, at the drop of a dime. But it was just Vince's vision. The only reason I think that Vince kind of went the Shawn Hart route at some point was because he didn't have a Hogan to replace Hogan. And Michaels and Bret Hart were so over that he had no choice. But if Vince could have had his 6'6", 6'7", basically circus freak in there like Hogan, then he would have. That's just his thing. And it's always it's sad too, because guys like Perfect and even Savage was lucky to get a heavyweight title run back in the day, because considering that he's not really the typical size that Vince liked. So yeah. I think that was it.
Hey, to your point though, with Mr. Perfect, hey, remember when he picked up the Giant in WCW and performed in Perfect Flex?
Yeah.
That was by far the most amazing thing that I've ever seen. And to your point as well, Flash, before we let BRF go, hey, remember when I think you're right when you was talking about he literally had no choice but to make Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, because they were so over during that time. Because remember what they tried to do right before WrestleMania 10? They tried to make Lex Luger the Lex Express. They tried to make him the next Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
Which that failed miserably.
Miserable.
So,
yeah, it was miserable. But
that
that
was
was terrible.
that was terrible.
Yeah, and that's what Vince wanted. That's what Vince's vision of the top guy is. I mean, look at Cena and how long he was at the top for. So yeah, it just was that was Vince. That's why I'm glad he's gone.
BRF, what do you think, man? Who is the top wrestler who never became world champion? You can choose any promotion.
Every time I get this question, I have the same answer. I have not budged. I will not budge. The greatest wrestler to never be a world champion, for my betting, will always and forever be Owen Hart. Will always and forever be Owen Hart. The fact that when they did the Black Heart angle with him pre-Attitude Era, before it really popped off, and they never pulled the trigger on him when he was getting himself over, like no real interest music coming through the crowd, cutting his promos, like kind of being a tweener, and then the fans get behind him and they never pulled the trigger on him. Owen Hart just, I feel like, I mean, he could do everything. High flyer, technician, mic skills, his selling. I mean, Mr. Perfect Owen Hart, greatest world champion. I mean, it's like pick one. You're not going to go wrong either way. But for me, it's Owen, because I just felt like his ceiling and what he could have became if he, like, you know, God rest his soul, Over the Edge. That Over the Edge pay-per-view is just, it still, it hurts my heart. And the fact that those wrestlers still had to go out there and finish that show after that, like that main event, you see Undertaker, if they zoomed in on Undertaker's face, you see his face, you see pain. You felt it because you knew what he was following. And it was just, it was tragic stuff. Like Owen Hart, I really feel could have surpassed Bret in terms of success.
You keep going, because I was going to bring this up, but you keep going. Go.
Yes, Owen could have surpassed Bret from the standpoint Owen had everything Bret had, plus charisma and mic skills.
Yeah, there you go.
Owen Hart had the entertainment factor that Bret necessarily did not have, that could have made him a bigger face of the franchise than Bret was. The reason the new generation era forced Vince's hand, because, okay, you had Diesel, you had Sid, you had early Undertaker. That Undertaker hadn't become, he wasn't like, he was popular, but he wasn't like the Undertaker you saw, like, American Badass Undertaker, that ultimately became, that second Dead Man run where he really became like that, where he really kind of became what he ultimately is recognized today. And I'm just like the bigs you had in the new generation era, they didn't jump out. They didn't jump off the page the way like a Hogan did and an Ultimate Warrior did in that golden era of the WWF, when they were kind of competing for who was the top guy. So with Bret and Shawn and guys like that, it kind of forced Vince's hand, because, I mean, like it or not, those were who the fans wanted. That's who you had to market. And Owen, I am shocked that they really didn't tap into something with him to give him a world title run, because I really think he could have done great things had he had a shot to be a World Wrestling Federation champion when it was still the World Wrestling Federation. Like, I feel like he could have taken that ball and he could have scored a bunch of touchdowns, because like I said, I feel like he's Bret with charisma and mic skills. That's Owen. Owen would have been a more marketable guy, and I just feel like this. I feel like his ceiling to be an all-time great, even though Brett's an all-time great. I think Owen Hart had a higher ceiling to be a bigger all-time great than Brett was, and I think it's a shame that we won't get to see it because it's going on. What this shit? This is 25 years. This year's 25 year anniversary of him dying at that pay-per-view. This is 25 years. So I mean, it's a shame. We won't get to see it because I feel like he had one of the highest ceilings of any wrestler in any era of any promotion, and it's a shame that he died before he really got an opportunity.
I'm actually I'd have to go back and watch why the Blackheart angle didn't ultimately work. Because he was over, but I feel like if I just go back and remember, like just going off of memory, it started to peter out for some reason. And I don't remember why. Like I said, I'd have to go back and look and watch that era again. But the one thing Owen lacked that Brett had was the look. Owen looked like the reason why he came across like the petty younger brother was because he looked like a petty younger brother. Like he looked like a guy that you wanted to punch in the face. With that, he had that whiny voice, and
yes,
and he was so good at again being the whiny baby brother, the why not me. Like the lead up to WrestleMania 10 when him and Brett go at it and he beats Brett at the first match of the night. It's awesome. And then the lead up to the SummerSlam steel cage match between the two, even though Brett wins that one. But I think that's the one thing he lacked was just he didn't have the look enough. Even when he went to the like the military cut when he was Blackheart, it just I don't know if they booked it wrong. Again, I'd have to go back and watch. I don't know if they booked it wrong or what they did because it just wasn't. It started hot because of the Montreal Screwjob. I also think he had it going against him because of the Brett and Vince relationship. I don't think he was ever going to succeed completely in that aspect, which is unfortunate.
I think basically, I think what it ultimately boils down to, I think the Blackheart gimmick was the right gimmick, but the timing just sucked because of everything that was going on at the time, from DX to the Hart Foundation to Stone Cold getting ready to just absolutely just take over. I think it was the right gimmick, but it just came at an awful time. It just came at an awful time.
Well, I think Austin. So I mean, Brett and the Bulldog and Anvil leave, and Owen stays behind. So he's considered the Blackheart. The problem is that at the time, are you really going to put him over Austin? No. Are you?
To be honest with you, go ahead. My bad.
No, go ahead, dude. I can finish.
The thing is, with Austin, the history was there. I think they could have gave him another shot.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I think that Vince really dropped the ball on that because the history was there. Because people don't understand this. Before The Rock and Stone Cold really was at its apex, the history with The Rock and Stone Cold was already there with the Intercontinental title. Same way it was with Owen and Stone Cold. So I don't think
Austin would have worked with Owen again and put him over.
I don't think that would that would have been the only problem if he would have put him over. I mean, I don't know if he would have because he didn't want to. Stone Cold openly said that he didn't want to work with Owen anymore. But the thing was this: the history for you to write the storyline was there. I nearly put you out of action. the whole Steve Austin. Yeah, the storyline was there. Like I said, because long before the WWF title run between The Rock and Stone Cold, you had the Intercontinental Rock and Stone Cold, and they was, if you look back on them, those segments were just as entertaining and pretty much a copy of the feud. Because the thing is, the only difference with when they had went on the WWF title run versus the Intercontinental title run, remember, there had been history of Stone Cold Steve Austin throwing, the Rock's belt in the river. The only difference was when it went to the WWF title, it was the other way around. So guess what? The only thing they did was rewrite the story with The Rock and Stone Cold with the WWF title. Everything was pretty much the same. The only difference was he was out of the nation and with the corporation at a certain point.
I'd actually argue that the Intercontinental run between Austin and Rock was better than the heavyweight title run.
Yeah, like I said, the only thing they did was rewrite.
That's not a ridiculous thing to say.
Nope. Part of the reason was because Austin's injuries hadn't caught up to him yet, or that they weren't like a major problem yet. But I think going back to Owen, I just don't think you can put him. You had the rise of DX, so like Owen. So let's see, they all leave. It's Over the Edge. Sean's gone already, right?
Yeah, Sean's gone. Sean's gone.
Yeah. Sean's got the back injury. He's gone.
It's Trips DX. That's on the rise. You have Austin Rock and the Nation of Domination. I agree. The story, I'll put it this way: if Triple H is booking that WWE, because what I would have, I think that then it happens. What I would have done is I wouldn't even done like a black. I kind of would have done a black heart angle, but I would have gave it a tweak. What I would have done is basically I would have had him just ruin everybody's. I would have done like, look what you did to my family. You had everybody talks about the Austin Vince and how Vince became the villain because of the Montreal screw job, and it propelled Vince from the behind the scenes owner that you never really talked about and the announcer to he's like this evil businessman or whatever. The real storyline there is not Austin versus Vince. It's Owen versus Vince. Because I would have.
Oh yeah, you could play that Montreal screw job up to a T.
Oh, you would have been like, "Why is you're the reason why my family's not here, Vince? You're the one that wouldn't play ball. You're the one that cost me my family. Like you could have done the whole Hart family angle thing about this is." We're wrestling royalty, not only here in the States, but in Canada and yada, 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 and the history and this and that. But you could have done that for years, just like the Austin Vince thing. Or you could have done a thing where kind of what the WWE is doing now with Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre is cutting some of the best promos he's ever cut ever.
Yeah,
I would have sent Owen out there every single week and to just complain and whine. You could have made him a real tweener. And then instead of him doing this traditional face, ascension, I would have had him going around interfering in everybody's matches. And just being basically, you ruined my family, so now I'm going to take it out on everybody else.
Yeah.
And take him from this, he's the whiny little brother, and make him
the savior of the family.
You make him a heel, that Austin heel, that tweener heel, that the baby face, because the only reason you're cheering for him is because of Vince. Because at the time, everybody hated Vince for what he did to Bret, supposedly, and then everybody grew up and went well, Bret kind of screwed Bret. If you look at it from a business perspective, we could get that in discussion all day. But to me, that was the evil Vince storyline that I would have booked, was Owen versus Vince. That's what I would have done. And I think that would have been, you would have blended the line between kayfabe and everything. I think that would have been awesome to see. But Austin was just too hot. Austin was just on. I mean, in my opinion, Austin at his peak, just peak, is way shorter peak, but at being at top. But I think he got louder, way louder pops than what Hogan did.
Yeah.
So, and I just think that Austin was just, Austin was just Austin. So I don't, that's the reason why Owen doesn't ascend, in my opinion.
I understand that completely. Hey, that was a hell of a way you broke that down. I never really thought about that, man. The Montreal screw job, and it turns into something with Owen instead of Austin. That is definitely some bulletin board material. But man, look,
I mean,
we gotta go to the gladiator sports. Oh, my bad. Go ahead, BRF.
But no, I was just gonna add one quick thing, and I'm not saying Vince would have wanted to do it, but the potential WCW teases in there as well with Brett going. Oh, they could have. I was definitely feeling Flash talking about that angle. That would have been cinema had they really like done something to really kind of capitalize on that with Owen. That really could have been cinema.
Yeah, not only doing that era before we go to the next one, we go into the last segment, but think about if Owen had lived until 2000 and they had booked him while Stone Cold had his neck messed up, and he was in a storyline with the McMahon Helmsley faction. Whose idea was it to go ahead and screw Brett? It was originally Triple H's. So you could very much play that era like, okay, Owen versus the Authority, and that could have been, man, I never really thought about that, man. That's how come I have y'all on here, the greatest minds in sports.
One more quick thing. Could you have if Owen got to live to see the 2000, could you imagine him versus all four Radicals in one-on-one matches?
Yeah.
Oh my good God! Ooh, Lord.
Owen versus
Eddie Guerrero.
Owen versus Eddie Guerrero would have fed families, bro.
Dude, basically the two whiniest bitches in the industry. And then on top of it, you add their in-ring skills. Dude, the promos back and forth would have been unreal.
Yeah.
Facts. I'm telling you, man. And Owen Eddie rivalry would have cooked on so many levels.
And if you want to talk about technical wrestling, him and the late great, you know who, can't say his name, and the late you know who, I think, and plus he was a friend of the family.
Well, of course, because he trained at the dungeon.
Plus he was a friend of the family, so that would have been very, very interesting to see. So, we saw, Brett versus, CB, I will say, in WCW for the world title. And, there was a little bit of a rivalry going back and forth for a little bit, paying tribute to Owen. But I would have loved to see Owen versus CB.
Hold on, I got one quick question. Flash, I saw your face. Were you thinking about Owen versus Kurt?
2. Yes, he was 1. Owen versus Kurt Angle would have been.
Who were you thinking about?
Rey Mysterio, young Rey.
Yeah. Oh God,
young Rey Mysterio, like prime, like 97 Halloween Havoc Rey.
Yeah,
dude, I finally got to.
Right.
Ooh, I finally got to go back and watch that 97 Halloween Havoc match with Rey and Eddie, and I got reminded why that match was so good.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. So now we're gonna go segue into the last segment, which we're gonna go from the gladiator sports to the finesse sports a little bit, man. Just a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit, and we're gonna end it on this note. Can any team overtake Boston after all the free agent rule? after all the free agent moves that everybody has made. I know that we saw Mikal Bridges, him go to the New York Knicks. We saw Paul George go to the Philadelphia 76ers. We saw KCP. We saw him go to the Orlando Magic. Can any of these teams overtake Boston? I don't think so, to be honest with you, but I'll let y'all decide. BRF, you have the floor, my friend.
Philadelphia scares me the most. Philadelphia scares me the most if Paul George stays healthy. Mm-hmm. And I hate to put the qualifiers on it, but I mean that's been an issue with Paul George is his health. But if Paul George stays healthy, Philly scares me the most. Because I had New York as my second, but Philly getting Paul George, that I feel like with Embiid, PG-13, and Maxey, offensively, that scares me more than anything New York throws at me. Mm-hmm. It scares me more. So I think Philly scares me the most with their roster construction now. I mean, New York is still going to be around just because for me, it's New York's team defense as a whole. I mean, I feel like, them and Boston in the Eastern Conference, I feel like are the best as far as pure team defense is concerned and just being able to shut any opponent down. But ultimately, I still think Boston is that team just based off of depth and just, understanding how to play the game, everybody knowing their roles. And then taking care of Jason Tatum so he doesn't have to worry about money anymore. So, I mean, I feel like the East is still Boston, but I think New York and Philly, and depending on New York, I mean the usual three I feel like are the ones that can really kind of go at them: New York, Philly, Milwaukee. Miami is a sleeper because it ultimately depends on if Jimmy Butler stays. Because if Jimmy Butler stays in Miami, Miami can beat anybody. They've shown that numerous times they can hang with and they can beat anybody. But ultimately, I feel like the East is still Boston's to lose. Boston should still be the favorite. I don't think anybody ultimately is going to beat them because I just think Boston is they are that team right now when it comes to the Eastern Conference. But like I said, Philadelphia 76ers scare me the absolute most if I'm a Boston Celtics fan. Because having to see Joel Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey, and if you have to see those boys in the 7-game series come playoff time, they're going to give you fits because they can all score the ball. You can't double nobody. So it's like pick your poison. Who do you try to stop? Who do you try to focus on? And I think that's where Philly could possibly come in, sneak up, and take Boston out because you can't double nobody out of those three. But ultimately, I feel like Boston's. I still feel like Boston's ultimately too good at the end of the day because what still sets them apart is their abilities and particularly their depth in the East. I still think that's what ultimately sets them apart.
Okay. Flash?
I think on paper, everything that BR said is right. I think it's Boston's to lose. But I think Boston's one weakness, and it was heading into Dallas, even in the finals, was keeping their head on straight. And now I kind of want to see how they react after now they've won the title. Are they still as hungry? Also, they had a really easy path to the title. Let's just be honest. Everybody in the East was hurt. Giannis was hurt. Dame was hurt. Embiid was hurt. Now Embiid's added Paul George. And yeah, I think Philly is probably the best challenger right now just because of the matchups. But I would not count Milwaukee out. Giannis is still a top 3 player in the league. Anybody that doesn't think that is kind of silly. And I think that they had a very weird season. And with the coaching changes and everything else, which I disagreed with the coaching changes on multiple levels, but now let's see what they do going into the offseason. And I mean, and how they adjust defensively, and are they able to hide Dame on defense a little bit? Will the offense now kind of mesh and gel a little bit better now that they've had a full off season now together? So I don't think it's just as cut and dry. It's like Boston and then everybody else. I think if Denver is in that series, I think Denver gives them fifth. So I think, again, Boston on paper, absolutely, I think blows everybody out of the water because of their depth. But they're kind of a head case. So that's the opening. And I think teams like if you have Giannis or whatever, who's really mentally and very mentally strong, and a motivated Giannis is a scary Giannis. So that's yeah. I don't think they're that far ahead of everybody else.
Okay. Hey, I can say this: free agency was hella busy this week, man. And I can say this, man. Look, with a lot of the older guys, I think this is Paul George's last chance in order to win a title. Not only that, if Russell Westbrook ends up going to Denver, I think this is his last shot in order to win the title. I think with these next 2 to 3 NBA finals that's coming up, we're seeing the true changing from the old guard to the new guard. And we've seen it twice. We've seen it one too many times before. And it's going to be interesting to see what this new guard is going to look like coming in, because a lot of these players are unknown at this point in time. We don't really have a lot of history on these players. And it's going to be a gift in order to see them grow and see them become what they truly can. And it's going to be a curse because we don't know them fully coming into the league. As we saw with the NBA draft, a lot of even the commentators that get paid millions, billions of dollars, they didn't know who half these guys were, who they were drafted. So the changing of the guard is going to be very, very interesting at this point in time. Quite frankly, as a fan, I'm excited to see it. And as a sports savant myself, I'm excited to learn about it. But on that note, man, I know it was a short show today, man. That concludes the Undisputed GOAT podcast. I wanted my guys to come in so we could get them back to their families and that good eating. We about to go. We got to get tomorrow. All the fresh fries, all the seafood boys, all the barbecues, all the fireworks. Excited to see all of that, man. Don't forget, man, look, WNBA All-Star Game a couple weeks from now. The Olympic team will be taking on the All-Star team, and that will be exciting. And if you really want me to be honest, that's going to be exciting, more exciting than the NBA All-Star Game, if you really want me to be honest with you.
Oh, easy.
But on that note, that's another story for another day. But on that note, man, hey, thank y'all for coming out. Thank y'all for taking time out of your day in order to spend this hour with me on a Wednesday night, right before the 4th of July. Hey, Flash, tell the folks where to follow you at, man.
You follow me on TikTok at Flash22. I'm actually going to have a couple of videos coming out tonight about the Caleb Williams and Bronny James stuff. And then you also follow me on TikTok on my other channel, From Dad Bod to Rad Bod, just where I'm kind of just getting back into shape and everything like that. And after dealing with some injuries and psoriatic arthritis. So you can follow me those two places. Again, I don't have time right now to start up my own YouTube channel yet or restart it back up from years ago. But that will be the goal at some point. You also follow me on Instagram, same thing, Flash22.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. BRF, my fellow DSGB. Tell the people to follow you.
The TikTok handle, as always, is BRF Sports. You can follow me in my link trees in the bio. Big Sugar 1122. There, the IG, Drell 112285. Dre 2285 is the X Twitter. Then I have a BRF Sports Facebook page. If y'all got anything y'all want me to post about, if y'all got graphics, anything you want me to talk about, any video ideas y'all might have, hey, shoot them my way. I'll be more than happy for the feedback. I'll be more than happy to talk with y'all because this is what I love to do. I love to have fun, and just all of our supporters out there, we definitely love and we greatly appreciate y'all because honestly, without y'all supporting us, showing us this love, we wouldn't be here doing what we love to do. So it's like I always say, a topic not thought about is a topic not talked about, and we live by that, and we're going to continue to strive. We're going to continue to strive by it. So definitely appreciate the love, and we're going to keep pumping this content out. We're going to keep doing what we do best, as I like to say.
Yes, indeed. Hey, Man, I know it was a short show today, a little bit shorter than you, the audience, are used to today. But like I said, this is a special 4th of July show. We chose to do it on a Wednesday rather than the Thursday of usual, because we want our guys to be able to enjoy the family, and we want y'all to be able to enjoy the family, man. So, hey, man, be on the lookout for us, because guess what? That pig skin is about to pick up real soon. And you can rest assured you will see the big three, myself, BRF, and Flash Faces a lot more. Not only on YouTube, but we will be bringing back those Sunday lives, if you get what I'm saying. If you know anything about us on TikTok, we definitely used to rule Sunday nights. But at the end of the day, man, the day got to end. And unfortunately for us, the show got to end. So that concludes the show. Happy 4th of July. Happy birthday, America. Hey, my fellow Americans, have a great time tomorrow. Hey, remember this. Let me tell you, like I tell everybody I know, don't go outside acting a fool. The judge don't come back to Tuesday. And on that note, we are out.